picture this. A small town, Delphi, Indiana. It's February the 13th, 2017. Two young friends, Abby Williams and Libby German. They decide to spend the day hiking along the Monon High Bridge. They get dropped off and are excited for a day of adventure. Taking pictures and laughing, soaking up the sun. They even share a picture on Snapchat. Just a simple snapshot of, well, teenage joy.
It's so tragic because they had no idea that this seemingly ordinary day would be their last.
Yeah, it's truly a case that sends shivers down your spine. Later that afternoon, their families started to worry. The girls hadn't come home, and calls went straight to voicemail. A search party was organized pretty quickly. And then the next day, the unthinkable happened.
Their bodies were found.
Just a short distance from the bridge.
And the details surrounding the crime scene, the cause of death, and the evidence that was left behind, it all pointed towards something much more sinister than just an accident. This wasn't just a case of two girls getting lost in the woods. This was a brutal act of violence.
Welcome to CrimePod Castle's Twisted Crime series. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Now, one of the most disturbing aspects of this case is the evidence that Libby unknowingly left behind. Investigators found a video and audio recording on her phone of a man walking towards the girls on the bridge.
And he's saying, "Guys, down the hill?"
It's chilling. It's a haunting echo of their final moments.
Yeah, and that recording is both a blessing and a curse for the investigation. On the one hand, it gives us a glimpse of the potential killer, a visual and audio clue that investigators have been analyzing for years. But on the other hand, despite this evidence, the case remained unsolved for a very long time.
I can't even imagine the frustration and torment the families must have felt, knowing there's a visual of the suspect, but still being no closer to finding him or her and getting justice for Abby and Libby. Years went by and leads ran cold. And then in October of 2022, there was a break in the case.
Richard Allen, a local resident who worked at a pharmacy, was arrested. It sent shockwaves through the entire community.
It's always unsettling when the suspect is someone seemingly so ordinary. Somebody you might pass on the street every day without even noticing. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about your community.
Right. Well, Allen admitted to being on the trail that day, but he denies any involvement in the murders.
That throws up a whole new set of questions.
It does. What was he doing there? Was he just in the wrong place at the wrong time?
Yeah.
Or is there something more sinister at play?
Eyewitnesses placed someone matching Allen's description near the bridge around the time of the murders. And there were similarities between his clothing and the outfit worn by the bridge guy in the video.
But eyewitness testimony can be unreliable, and circumstantial evidence can only take you so far.
So we have these pieces of the puzzle, the video, the eyewitnesses, the suspect's presence on the trail, but they don't quite fit together to form a complete picture. It's like we're looking at a distorted reflection.
Exactly. Grasping for clarity amidst the chaos.
And perhaps the most perplexing question of all remains unanswered. Why? What could possibly drive someone to commit such a horrific act against two innocent young girls? Was it a random act of violence? Or was there a deeper, more disturbing motive at play?
I think that question of motive is really the heart of the whole case. The piece that could unlock everything else. Was this a crime of opportunity? A sudden, impulsive act? Or did the perpetrator carefully plan this, stalking his victims? Choosing that isolated location for a specific reason.
Prosecutors have said there might have been a sexual motive, but as of yet, there's no concrete evidence to support that theory.
Right, and that just deepens the mystery even more, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We're left trying to make sense of this horrible act without any clear explanation.
It's important to remember, though, that the investigation is still ongoing.
Yeah.
There might be details or evidence or witness accounts that haven't been made public yet.
Sure.
And those details could be the key to understanding the killer's motivation, their methods, and whether or not they acted alone.
Speaking of acting alone, there's been some speculation about the possibility of an accomplice.
Right.
Could someone else have been involved, helping to plan the crime, transporting the victims, or even participating in the actual act?
Well, the crime scene itself is pretty complex, and that does lend some weight to that theory. Some elements suggest a level of planning and control that one person alone might not have been able to manage.
Like what?
Well, the way the scene was staged, the way the bodies were positioned, the removal of certain items. All of these details point to a deliberate attempt to mislead investigators.
Wow. It's like the killer was playing a game, leaving behind a trail of breadcrumbs that lead to a dead end, taunting the authorities.
Right. And that level of psychological manipulation is chilling, to say the least.
For sure. And it makes you wonder if they might have committed similar crimes before, honing their skills and perfecting their methods, becoming more audacious with each act.
It's a chilling thought, but it's certainly possible. Serial offenders often display patterns in their behavior,
Yeah.
escalating their level of violence as they gain confidence.
What about the impact on the community? Delphi's a small town, a place where people felt safe, where neighbors looked out for each other. This case must have completely shattered that sense of security.
Absolutely. This tragedy tore the community apart, leaving behind fear, distrust, and grief that has lingered for years. It's a reminder that even in the most peaceful places, darkness can still exist.
But I've also heard that amidst the darkness, there's been an incredible display of resilience.
Oh, absolutely. The people of Delphi haven't let this tragedy define them. They've come together to support the families, to keep the case in the public eye, and to demand justice for Abby and Libby.
And what about the families? I can't imagine the pain they've been through all these years waiting for answers, holding on to hope while dealing with such a horrific loss.
Their strength is truly remarkable. They've become advocates for their daughters, tirelessly pushing for justice, keeping their memories alive and making sure their story is never forgotten.
We can't forget about Libby's incredible bravery either. In those terrifying final moments, she had the presence of mind to record the man on the bridge.
It's amazing.
That single act of courage may be the key to solving this case.
Yeah, it really might. It shows how she was thinking clearly and stayed strong, even when facing danger. That recording is a powerful reminder that even in our darkest moments, we can find the strength to fight back.
It's a chilling piece of evidence, a haunting echo of their last moments. But it's also a beacon of hope, isn't it? A symbol of Libby's resilience and a testament to the power of truth. And that gives me hope that one day, justice will be served.
It does. It's cases like this that remind us how fragile life is, the importance of cherishing every moment, and the unwavering need to fight for justice, even when the path is long and difficult.
It's a story that stays with you long after you've heard it, isn't it? It reminds us that there is darkness in the world, but it also shows the strength of the human spirit. It's hard to really grasp a case like this, two young lives cut short so tragically.
And it's especially unsettling because it happened in such a seemingly peaceful town like Delphi. It just shatters any feeling of safety we might have.
We call these twisted crimes, but really, it's the ripple effect that's truly twisted, how it impacts families and communities, even those of us who just hear about it on the news.
Yeah, and what's particularly haunting about the Delphi murders is that piece of evidence Libby caught on her phone. The video and audio of that man on the bridge.
It's like we get to look right into their final moments. It's a scary reminder that evil can be anywhere, even in places you'd least expect.
It really makes you think about the role technology plays in our lives now.
Right.
Our phones can be used for good or for really bad things.
It's like a double-edged sword, huh? We share so much of our lives online without even thinking, and that information could be used against us.
In this case, though, it's a possible lifeline for the investigators. It's one piece of the puzzle that could finally bring justice.
But it also shows how vulnerable we are in this digital age, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
It makes you wonder how we can find a balance between security and privacy. It's tough. No easy answers.
Right. It's a conversation we really need to have. As technology keeps advancing, we have to make sure our laws and ethics keep up with it.
Going back to the Delphi case, though, I'm curious about your thoughts on the investigation. It's been years since the murders happened, and even though there's been an arrest, there's still so many questions.
Yeah, it is definitely complex. I mean, Richard Allen says he's innocent, and that adds another layer to it all. The prosecution needs to build a really strong case, one based on evidence, not just what people think or guess.
Is there a chance he could be found not guilty?
Well, it's possible. The legal system wants to make sure everyone gets a fair trial, so the burden of proof is on the prosecution. And if they can't prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt, Allen could walk free.
That would be awful for the families and the community. They've waited so long for some kind of closure.
It would be devastating. This case has caused so much pain already. A not guilty verdict would just make that pain even worse.
So what are the biggest challenges for the investigators right now?
I'd say time is a big one. The longer a case stays unsolved, the harder it is to find evidence and build a strong case. People forget, witnesses move, and leads go cold.
And in a case like this, with the potential staging at the crime scene, every tiny detail becomes important. It's like a puzzle with missing pieces, and some of them have been moved around on purpose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The killer or killers wanted to mislead investigators, right? So it's harder to figure out what actually happened that day.
Makes you wonder what else is still out there. What other clues or evidence haven't been found yet?
I have a feeling we haven't heard the end of this story. There are probably still secrets waiting to be uncovered. Information that could shed some new light on the murders and maybe even lead to a conviction.
Maybe Libby's video has more to tell us than we first thought.
Yeah, you never know. Technology is always changing, and new ways of gathering evidence are being invented all the time. What we thought was useless a few years ago could be vital now with the right tools and expertise.
That's a little bit of hope in a really dark story, isn't it?
It is. Even though this case is complex and heartbreaking, we can't forget about hope. That's what keeps the families going, and the investigators, and everyone who believes that justice will win in the end.
The Delphi murders are a chilling reminder that there's evil in the world, but they also show how strong the human spirit can be, and our desire to find the truth and see justice done.
It's a story that makes us question what we think about safety and security, and to speak up for those who can't speak for themselves.
This case has really caught the attention of the whole nation, and it's easy to see why. It's a story about loss and grief and how fragile life is, but it's also about hope and resilience and the enduring power of the human spirit.
If you've been as fascinated by this deep dive as we have, please follow and subscribe to CrimePod Castle and our YouTube channel. That really helps us keep the show going, and you'll be the first to know about our upcoming episodes of Twisted Love, Crimes of Passion.
We're going to keep exploring the darker side of human nature and bring you those stories that don't always get told. And hopefully, even in a small way, help in the search for justice.
Thanks for joining us. Keep those lights on and stay safe. Remember, even when things are at their darkest, the truth always has a way of coming out.